molar mass and mass calculations is all about the mole concept in chemistry. Now, it's not like the moles on people, on the skin. It's not like the moles, the animal. A mole is a unit for counting particles. Okay? So it's not anything like that. So it comes from a different root. It comes from the Greek word mola, meaning a pile or a heap. So, moving forward, chemists measure particles in moles. It's the unit. Particles are so small, we have to use something to measure them. We can't just measure individual particles. So what we have to do is we have to measure something that we can relate to a number of particles. So, in fact, in about 20 milliliters of water, in a very small amount of water, like that bottle that Oscar has, I think is 250 milliliters or 330. Let's say a volume on there. 500 milliliters.
Want to use it?
Yeah, sure. So in this plastic water bottle is 500 milliliters of water. So in here, there's about 25, if it was full, it would be about 25 moles of water. So that's quite a bit of particles. So that's why we use moles instead of saying something like 25 trillion. There's about 25 trillions of particles in here. Yes, sir? 1 mole is about a half of a trillion trillions. So 1 mole, guys, I'll write that on the board. 1 mole, as a matter of fact, I'm still recording, so 1 mole, and this is what reviewing what we last talked about, is 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd particles.
We learned this yesterday.
Well, the scientific notation. So we have that number is 6. That's this number right here. That's a big number, isn't it? It's about half of a trillion trillions. That's about 60 billion millions. That's a huge number. Yes, sir? Sarah's question is, how do they know this number? And it is actually, in fact, this is the number of hydrogen atoms in 1 gram of hydrogen. And that's how it was calculated. So they didn't actually count it, they calculated this number.
No, I know, but like if they're like...
So that was a great point that Oscar and Rafi brought up. Oscar brought it up, can you have 2 moles? Well, yeah, that would just be double this number, double 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd. I could have half of it. A mole is just a word that means a number. It's like similar to a dozen. So if I have a dozen, can I have 2 dozen?
Yep.
Could I have 3 dozen? Could I have half of a dozen? You can have half dozens. So
Yeah.
yes, you can. So that's like I'm going to go to my next slide here. Whoops. Like a chicken farmer has dozens of eggs, chemists have moles. Okay? Yeah, you can have a quarter of a mole. You can have up to 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd of a mole. But nothing. That's scary. All right? So we'll talk more about that in a second. So the key thing is, guys, and this is a skill that's going to be on our mid-year exam, our final exam, and in our next couple labs. So the molar mass of an element. The next 2 slides are extremely important.
Can we write it down?
Yep.
Yeah.
So 1 mole of any element has its mass and its atomic mass in grams. So that's what Sarah was saying before. How does this work? we can relate the moles, which represents the number of particles, to something we can weigh. So how much would, if I needed 2 moles of S particles, how much would that weigh? About 64. Good, Rafi. How do you figure that out? It's double, right? If I had half a mole of sulfur atoms, about how much would that weigh? About half of a mole. What do you think? What do you think, Kelsey? How much would half of a mole weigh of sulfur?
16.
16. So we're going to talk about calculations of a molar mass of an element. Those are pretty easy because the molar mass is given to you from the periodic table, from the atomic mass. It's always the decimal number too. Okay? What we're going to do in our class is round to the 10th spot, to 1 decimal place. Okay? That'll make life a little easier. Okay? So moving on. To find the molar mass of a compound, and this is something you guys are going to want to write down. You don't have to write down the Mg, C, and O because that's given to you in your periodic table. How to calculate the molar mass of a compound. So our compound here is magnesium carbonate, MgCO3. So what this is made of is this, for every mole of MgCO3, is made of 1 mole of magnesium, 1 mole of carbon, and 3 moles of oxygen. And we can figure that out from looking at this formula, MgCO3. Now remember, if there's no subscript written, what do we assume? How many Mg's do we have?
1.
1. How many C's? 1.
3.
Nope.
3 O's.
3 O's.
Yes.
So 1 mole of Mg, 1 mole of C, and 3 moles of O. Yeah. So you can actually, when we're thinking about that, is so we know that 1 mole of magnesium is 24.3 grams. 1 mole of carbon is 12.0 grams, about, and 1 mole of oxygen is 16.0. If we round to the tenths. Sarah, what's your question?
So basically, a mole is an exponent.
It's
Like the subscript thing, whatever.
you look to the formula
How
to,
many things there are?
yes, we look to the formula to figure out how much of each element there is. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that's
Okay. So, and then you multiply it because for 1 mole of magnesium weighs 24.3 grams, 1 mole of carbon weighs 12 grams, and 1 mole of 3 moles of oxygen weighs 48 grams. Yep. So you find that by multiplying. Okay? And to find the molar mass of this compound, I add them up totally, and I get 84.3.
I have a question.
Yes.
So you have to find you have to look on the periodic table to find.
So this number, guys, this 24.3, this comes from the periodic table. That's correct. We're going to round to the 10th spot. Let me just do it in a couple different colors. So carbon, right here, rounded to the 10th. And, guys, please, I'm recording this right now. Please be polite.
I'm sorry, I didn't know.
And oxygen, 16.0. These are all rounded to the tenths. So if we added all these numbers up, we would get this number right here. That's our molar mass. And the key thing here, guys, is the molar mass of magnesium carbonate is 84.3. Write that down. So right now, I want you guys to calculate the molar mass of aluminum nitrate. Al, in parentheses, NO3, close parentheses 3. Keep in mind that these parentheses will affect the number of each element right here. Okay?
Wait, what is
So, how to calculate the molar mass, we have to figure out of all the different things that's made of. Okay? Right? So, what we have is 1 mole of aluminum To calculate this, our molar mass of aluminum is right here. Our molar mass of nitrogen is here. Molar mass of oxygen is here. Remember, we're going to round to the tenths. So I have 1 aluminum. I have, how many nitrogens do I have here? Ashley? I have 3. How do you know that? Yep. I have 3 outside of the parentheses and 1 inside. So I have 3 times 1 nitrogens. And how many oxygens do I have, Chris?
3. 6.
Nope.
6 is 9.
Multiply 3 times 3 is
Oh my God, freaking 9.
9
What the hell?
oxygens. Okay?
I'm doing that.
So how do I calculate the atomic mass? I calculate it by 1 times the atomic mass of aluminum, which is 27.0. 3 times the atomic mass of 14.0. And 9 times the atomic mass of oxygen, which is 16.0. Which is equal to 1 times 27, 27.0. 3 times 14 is 42.0. And 9 times 16 is 144.0. Then I add up this total, and what do I get?
Okay. What was that?
What do I get? Add up the tenths,
Put
0,
my name on there.
6, that's 5, that's 3, 213.0. If you got like 212.98, that's fine too, you just round it to a different spot. Okay? So this means right here, this is the molar mass. So this means that 1 mole of aluminum nitrate has a mass of 213.0 grams. And also, you can write this down as 213.0 grams per mole. Okay? So next thing we're talking about is the molar mass triangle. We're coming back to some triangles. So this is for calculating moles and mass given the other stuff. So my molar mass, I'm going to abbreviate that MM.
Should I write this down, Ken?
Yes. Is my grams, my mass, essentially, over my moles. So this is for calculation, just like our density triangle that we used before.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? So we're going to be doing some calculations with this. So this is how we're going to do our mole calculations. So Rafi, how do I calculate my moles using this triangle? How would I calculate my moles? Moles is my mass over my molar mass. How do I calculate mass, Chris? How do I calculate mass? How do I calculate mass?
Molar mass times moles.
Molar mass times moles.
Yeah,
Good.
don't worry.
So now do this. So I want to find my moles. My moles is equal to what? What's my formula for moles? What's my formula for moles, Oscar?
I did 1 mole or
No, for moles.
Grams over molar mass.
So I have
the
grams
triangle?
over molar mass.
Okay.
Now my molar mass, I know I calculated before in this. That's why I used this substance for this formula. So Rafi, make sure you're paying attention. My molar mass of magnesium carbonate is 84.3 grams per mole.
Hey.
My molar mass, 84.3 grams per mole. Now, there's 2 different ways you can do this problem, like we were doing before the other day, and you don't even have to use the triangles, or you can use the mole triangle thing, but the math ends up being the same. So how many grams do I have in this problem, Kelsey?
0.3. Oh, grams, 25.5.
25.5 grams. And what's my molar mass, Rafi? 81. 84.3 grams per mole. What happens to the units here? What happens to the units grams?
Change to millimeters, right? Millimeters.
What unit is that? That's not milliliters. That is
I can't tell what that is. You have to cross it
MOL.
out.
This unit cancels out, so I'm left with, what's my answer?
Moles.
How much?
I divide it.
What is it? 0.3 grams, sorry, moles. Okay. Yes, Oscar.
Can I do that?
Yep.
All right. So we're finding the moles.
What's moles equal to?
Uh,
No, what are we trying to calculate
the
here?
mass. So you do moles times molar mass.
Good. So I want to calculate my mass here, so I want to calculate grams. Mass equals what? Sorry?
I just have a quick question.
Yep.
What's the you know how we had like volume over mass or whatever? You know
Yes.
that's really
Yes, yep, yep.
What's the thing for that?
The triangle?
No, like what's the how do you know what you put it over?
Well, we want to calculate mass, right? So I can go forward and calculate mass is equal to moles times molar mass. Right? If I know 1 mole is 84.3 grams, I can calculate 2.5. How? By multiplying them together. So if I have,
Do you have like a little riddle to remember?
I have the triangle.
No, I know, but they're all hard.
So I have 2.5 moles times 84.3 grams per mole. And what do I get for an answer? Oscar, what did I get?
You got. Give me 1 second.
Yep.
210.75.
210.75.
210.75. So let's round up to the tenths and say 210.8. And what's the unit?
Mass. So grams.
Grams. Good. All right. So, guys, so for any moles mass problem, and you're converting, you're going to need to know to calculate the molar mass of the substance. Okay? So you're going to have access to this triangle. Okay? So I want you guys to do these two problems right now.